Right. So, hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's Experts Talk. Today with us, we have Neil Durrans. Hello, Neil. Hello, hello.
Hello.
Great. So I'll just say hi for a second. And yes, so Expert Talk is really something that we started in the Facebook group Heal Yourself Naturally, where we really want to spread the message that there is an alternative way to healing, and naturally is just as good as any, really. My name is Zainab Avni. I'm an energy healer and an alignment coach. And now I want to invite Neil to tell us a little bit about you, and let's get started. Over to you, Neil.
Okay, thank you very much. Um, Good to be here today or this evening if you're in the UK. And for me, I work with the mind-body symptom. So we've heard of John Sarno's work of TMS and tension myositis syndrome. No one understands what that really is from a layperson perspective, and then it was changed by Dr. Mark Sofer to the mind-body syndrome. And I kind of still looked at that as quite medical still. So I then changed it to the mind-body symptom, only because there's so many different symptoms out there that are actually mind-body or emotional, presenting as a physical. So that's the work that I do, working with people diagnosed with conditions with no medical cure, really, which is what all of these conditions are. Hi, Heidi. And it started off with me becoming unwell myself with a condition called dystonia. And it was a condition with no cure. It started in my hand, moved into my eyes, went into my neck, three different diagnoses, all with no cure. Treatments were Botox, high strength medications, possible brain operation, things like that. But it just didn't sit right. And it was my partner that said to me, Neil, your brain created this, so I think your brain can fix this. And I started to look at the reasons for what could have emotionally happened which created this. And I realized I'd gone into an emotional burnout. I just pushed too hard. The stress in life, the emotions in life had just got too much, and my body was saying no, my brain was saying no. So I started working with myself over a 2-year period, which led me to recovery in 2018. So it began in 2014. And I was training to become a therapist during that time. So I was doing my NLP practitioner, I was doing my hypnotherapy, and I started to think, well, hang on a minute, I really got to look out and reach out to people with these diagnoses to try and start to help them. And that's what I did. And I was working with weight loss, I was working with anxiety, I was working with smoking, all the normal things that therapists work with. But I was also starting to talk to people with the diagnosis of dystonia, and to try and educate them as well as educate myself. I started working with people whilst I was still in symptoms. So I suppose it was quite a brave thing to do, or stupid, I don't know. But it seemed to be the right thing. And people started to get better as I was getting better. And then I started to communicate to people that you can do this. But of course, I was getting a lot of backlash then, because when you've got something with no cure, there's no cure. So I started getting a lot of abuse and things like that. Now, in 2017, I trained to be an old pain to go practitioner, which is where I really tapped into the mind-body world to begin with, although it was quite sort of skimming along the surface of. But I learned about the unconscious mind, or the subconscious mind, as some people call it. I learned about fibromyalgia. And I learned that fibromyalgia was a burnout condition, and it has certain character types with it, which I'll talk about later on. And I just started thinking, hold on a minute, this is the same as dystonia. Now, dystonia isn't classed as a burnout condition anywhere, but I linked it in and thought it absolutely is. And then I started to look at character types. I started to look at the same things that I'd look at with the person with fibro and link it into dystonia, and they were identical. And I was like, oh my God. Except the difference with dystonia is it's a very physical presentation, whereas fibromyalgia is a very pain orientation, soft tissue orientation. Um, so that's the direction I've started to go in. And once I recovered in 2018, there was no stopping me. 2021, I stumbled across John Sarno and Mark Sofa and Howard Schubiner and the gang. And I was like, I don't believe it. And there was already people talking about burnout and all these different conditions that were there. And this is when I looked back and I started to think, oh my word, I've been suffering with so many different mind-body symptoms over my life, which included eczema as a child, crying through your skin, asthma as a child, a deflection away from physical education, anxiety, sciatica, acid reflux, and all of these different diagnoses that I was fighting all my life and then burnt out. Okay. So it all linked in 2021. And then from 2021 onwards, I've just been working with dystonia and conditions with no medical cure. So that's kind of me and how my journey has got me to where I am today. But something that I've really learned and understood is, one, the lack of understanding in the medical world, the lack of knowledge and understanding in the medical world, where we go to them because that's where we want to go, because we're trained to go to the doctor since a child. When we're unwell, we go to the docs, and that's where our parents take us. But when we go there, we get a diagnosis and we come away with tablets or strong meds or injections or operations, whatever it might be. And we never seem to get better. And the symptoms seem to get worse and worse and worse. And we go into mental health issues and so on and so forth. So that's one big thing that it's taught me. And I think my biggest, not challenge, but my biggest desire is to educate as many people as possible by guiding them and manifesting mind-body information onto them so that they kind of see themselves in it, so that they can recognize that, oh, hang on, this feels more like it, instead of coming away scratching your head from a doctor's surgery or a neurologist thinking, this doesn't feel right. I'm sure this isn't this. So I spend a lot of my time educating people. I think that's probably the majority of the process, actually, is educating people and giving that knowledge and understanding and linking it in with who they are as a personality. And I know that when I work with my dystonia clients, I send them an intake form, which is about 8 pages long, but it's not talking about symptoms per se. It's talking about them as a whole person, which is the one thing we don't get asked by the doctors. You know, what's going on in your life around about the time this began? You know, what stresses were you going through? Have you got a history of issues? What's your character type like? Are you a bit of a perfectionist? Are you the type of person that's desperate to meet everybody's expectations and be there for everybody? And put yourself under pressure because you're always feeling like you're not good enough, and you aim and you achieve higher than anybody else, and you're pushing and pushing and pushing. Do you find that you internalize critical language towards yourself and you're hard on yourself, even though other people are giving you credit, you're still finding problems with what you've done? And what you get when you start asking these questions is, that's me. You know, and I'll ask things like, do you find yourself being quite driven, like operating at 100 miles an hour? Do you find yourself walking past people on the street really quickly, doing things really quickly? Do people say things like, do you ever take a break? Do you ever sit down and rest? Okay, it's common feedback that people with mind-body conditions receive. Okay, So the intake form is all about that. And once I've got that, it ticks all of the boxes, and I know exactly who I'm dealing with, and I know exactly what direction we need to go. And that direction is education. And it's just trying to create those light bulb moments. Like as I'm talking now, some of you might go, oh, yeah, that's me. Yeah, I recognize that. And if that happens, then you could be that personality that might have had those pains or anxieties or headaches or IBS or whatever it is that you might have gone through and having no idea why. But we'll link it in to emotion. And I think this is a super important part, is the symptom that you feel is emotional. So if you're emotionally stressed, it will be stronger. If you are emotionally calmer, it will settle. Okay. If you've got a build-up of stress over a period of time, it could end up in a flare, an eczema attack, an anxiety attack, an anger attack, a flare in symptoms of fibro or chronic fatigue or ME or dystonia, whichever. Okay. But what we do as human beings is we turn in and focus on the symptom. And then we panic about the symptom, we get scared of the symptom, which then loops around on the symptom. Because fear and symptom loop around on each other. Okay. The reason that happens is because the brain knows that. The brain doesn't want you to feel those emotions, because the one thing that I know with the people that I work with, certainly with mind-body conditions, is we hold on to our thoughts and feelings. We stuff our emotions down inside. Okay, so we can present this calm, consistent person that's always there for everybody, and we stuff it down inside. And of course, when we stuff it down inside, it's going to build and build and build within you until it gets to the point where it tips. And when it tips, it spills into the body, and your brain goes like this. Okay. And it forces you to look at the symptom to avoid the emotion that's on its way. Okay. Why don't the doctors tell us this? Anyone got any ideas on that? Why don't the doctors tell us this? Okay.
Because they don't know it themselves.
Not to look at illness like they've not taught to look at illness like that. They go to the medical book and see what the symptoms are. Emotions and feelings don't come into it. It's just like nutrition doesn't come into it. Where'd you get your health? Not from nutrition. No, it's nothing to do with that. Well, hang on a minute.
All right, you're absolutely right. And it's okay. I've got to take the weight off medical world a little bit, because it's not in their training. So there's a great video on YouTube with, it's about 2 hours long actually, Dr. Schubiner and an English doctor, and they're talking for quite some time, and they actually discuss the training of doctors, and that in the US, in the whole of their training, years of training, pain is only discussed for 11 hours.
They never learn about trauma per se.
Right, 100%.
Yeah.
Okay, so pain is spoken about for 11 hours in the US, 13 hours in the UK, so we're clearly much more experts in that area. The subject of emotions is spoken about for 10 hours, and it's normally around PTSD. Okay, not where the emotions live in the body and how they move around and all that sort of thing, none of that. And they talk about the subconscious or the unconscious mind in their training, which is the cause of the vast majority of conditions that do not involve a break or some damage or tumors or infections, for 0 hours.
Mm-hmm.
It's not in their
You
training.
have to be a psychiatrist or a psychologist, all right, to get into that stuff here.
And you know,
in our hospitals,
even,
everybody is a specialist now.
Yeah.
And the drug industry runs everything here.
A lot of money in that.
Oh, lots of money.
And with dystonia, condition that I kind of specialize in, you've got Botox, which is the most expensive medication on the market, and then brain medication, and then there's operations. We're talking lots and lots of money. So it's not in their training. So with people that we work with as mind-body therapists, and people that come to us, we've got to be soft and gentle with regards to the journey they've been on so far. Has had lots and lots of doors shut in their face. They've come away disappointed, or this hasn't worked and that hasn't worked, and physio hasn't worked, and acupuncture hasn't worked, and the osteopath hasn't worked, and so on and so forth. When they come to me or ENAV or another mind-body specialist, we understand that, okay? And then it's our job to gently change the direction of the education and the knowledge so that you can start to go, okay? And start to feel like, one, you're being listened to as a person, not just a symptom. Two, you're having time and patience to be listened to, instead of 10 minutes in and out the door, that's it, you're done. Okay. And then obviously you are given the responsibility, you're given the tools to recover yourselves, because you're the ones that have all of the resources to get yourselves better, the same as you've got all the resources to get yourself into those conditions in the first place. Okay. And it's about giving you that courage, that strength, and that confidence to be able to look at symptoms differently, to look at symptoms without fearing them, to look through them and know what they are. Because when you feel a symptom, you look at how you've been emotionally, and you start to think, okay, I feel that. What's been going on? What have I been thinking about? You know, what have I been worrying about? What have I been catastrophizing about? Okay, so you can put some clarity on it, and then you can make a change, and then that will affect the symptom. Okay, really, it's a different way of looking at it, of course, but it's so empowering when you feel like you've got all of the tools to do it, and you don't have to go and rely on someone to fix you, which is what we do, one person to another, to another, to another, to another.
Yeah, and they're all separate, whereas actually we're all in a holistic whole thing, and it's all connected, but we have to go to different people to get different things, and none of those people are talking to each other, and you can't connect it all. So it's like you're lost, aren't you, really?
Yeah, it's really frustrating. And I often I call myself sort of the last man standing, because it's always the last person where they come to and say, can you do anything? Like, no, but you can. And
Yeah,
and then the journey begins, and they're curious then, what do you mean? It's wonderful, but the journey away from these symptoms isn't something like a finger click and it's done, or a magic wand and it's done. Whatever level the symptoms are at, whatever the emotion is that's spilling out of you, there's work that needs to be done to be able to balance that out, which does take time. So when we've got perfectionist, people pleasers, self-critical people in front of us, and we're saying we need to be patient with that, kind of flies in the face of people who say, yeah, but I want this done yesterday. I want this gone yesterday. And it's like, no, just take time. But the good news is the work that we do now, working with the unconscious mind, and the way that it's communicated to the client, to the person suffering with that condition, we can actually make some changes super quickly. You know, there are now, we've got the ability to turn off pain really quickly. A lot of the mind-body doctors will say it can take days and weeks and months for pain to disappear, but we also need to understand that if you're not broken or damaged, it's a message that's been sent by the brain that's incorrect. And what I mean by incorrect is, let's say, for example, you've got a really big pain in your arm, which you've been diagnosed as tennis elbow, for example, or tendonitis or carpal tunnel. Okay, now that pain isn't linked to something that's broken or damaged. Okay, you might see some inflammation or something, but there's nothing broken or damaged in there. Now, if I was to then damage my arm, how would I know? Because the message that equates damage, pain, is already being sent. Okay, so we have to negotiate with the brain and say that's not the right message here. Okay, and once the person understands that, the unconscious mind gets it because it goes, oh, yeah, you're right. Then we can switch pain off. So with many people that come to me with the diagnosis of cervical dystonia, which isn't cervical spine, so much pain goes with it. But in the first session, we switch that pain off because it's not part of the diagnosis. It doesn't need to be there. Okay. So they can be in pain for years and years and years and years. But once they understand what pain is, and then they recognize we can switch it off, then we switch it off. No hypnosis or anything. It's done live. Everything is done live and transparent. Remember, you recover you. So it's teaching you how to do it. Teaching you how to switch your own pain off. That, what's that all about? It's magic, isn't it?
Brilliant.
But it's teaching you how you can do it. Simply by asking it to. Okay. And I've had people, I work with them and they open their eyes after just doing some relaxation, again, not hypnotherapy, and they've still got some pain there. And I will say, right, look, just put your hand on there. Okay. And then just say, relax, just get it to turn it off. And then open your eyes when you notice a difference. And every time they go, it's gone. Okay. Because it's about being able to communicate with yourself effectively. But because we don't understand the communication that's going on in the body, because we don't recognize it, we don't know what to do with it. So we go running into the medical world if you don't know what to do with it. Okay? But we do know what to do with some messages from the brain, like hunger. We go to the fridge and get something to eat, and then hunger disappears. Thirst, we go and get a drink, and the thirst disappears. The need to go to the toilet, you go to the toilet, the message disappears. Okay? But when we get pain, and we go to the medical world, and actually it's an indication possibly that you're emotionally overloading a bit. And when we acknowledge that and do something about it, pain goes. But one thing to underline all this, the first point of call has to be the medical world. So if you're in pain or you've got a symptom in your body and it's prolonging or it's getting worse, okay, you have to go to the medical world first because they've got the technology and the resources to scan your body to see what's going on. They're the ones that can say, can't see anything actually. They're the ones that can say there's a tumor or there's something broken in there or there's an infection that we need to treat. But when you come back with nothing seen, okay, and then they give you a label, okay, but when you come back with nothing on the imagery, okay, and then you add in the fact that the symptoms turn up, turn down, turn off, possibly when sleeping sometimes. Okay, but they fluctuate, they move, they can move around in your body. So I had one lady whose pain went from here to here. She never had any pain over here before, but when we started talking about it, it switched. And she was like, it's just gone on the other side of my neck. I'm like, that's good. Because if it's moving, it can't be something broken or damaged. Okay, so it's about us, like I say, being educated. We need to use the medical world to be able to get a diagnosis, and then if they're giving us tablets and things that just aren't working, or if you fix one thing and something else starts, and you fix that and something else starts, definitely emotional. Find a mind-body practitioner, and then you can start tracking down the road to recovery, which is incredible. Absolutely incredible.
Yes.
Ina, is there anything you want to add there at all?
No, that's been fascinating, as it always is, to listen to you. I think the one thing that, you know, people usually say is, yeah, right, but not in my case. And they always bring that, you know, their own story and whatever they've been going through. And it seems that a lot of the time people are willing to consider emotions as a root cause for other people, but not for themselves. And to have that conversation that actually, first of all, emotion is not a scary word, and actually, it's okay to open it up. It's okay to look into that. It's not, if you have we all have emotions, right? So looking into emotions doesn't mean that you're a wuss, or that you're not man enough or anything like that. Actually, it's the opposite. So I think that is the main point of challenge to begin with.
Yeah, and you will have um, the vast majority, of over 90% of people that will be medical focused, full stop, just because it's part of their core belief. And I get that 100%. That it's doesn't sound real, doesn't sound right to say that an emotion can present as a physical in your body. But when you start to explain things like when you get embarrassed, you get red cheeks. When you're nervous, you get butterflies in your tummy. When you are scared, your hairs on your arms and the back of your neck stick up and you shake. And when you have a memory of something from the past, you might notice you get goosebumps. And these are emotions presenting as physical. It happens a lot anyway, but when we start to equate physical symptoms as emotions presenting as a physical, it's a bit like, really? And it's because there's not much in the way of information or knowledge out there. And the vast majority of the professionals won't even include this in their thinking, never mind their learning. You'll get the vast majority that won't see this, which is a real shame. And when I've gone in my early days, I went into the dystonia groups, Facebook groups. That's where we all go. We get a diagnosis, and then we want a community of people that suffer with the same things, all doom and gloom. And I went in there and said, "Hey, I think you can recover." Oh my word! I've never received such emotional abuse. Yeah, literally, I was attacked left, right.
What do you mean?
Yeah. So, so it's understanding that as well. We can't. It's you need to be the one that goes, I think this sounds like me, and then you inquire. It can't be, you've got to come in here and understand this. It doesn't work that way. If you think you see yourself in this, or yeah, okay, yeah, I get that, then you're more than likely in the right place. And then filling out an intake form or having a discussion, a consultation, we'll understand more. And then you can go, do you know what? Thank goodness I found the right direction, the right place. I know I'm going to get better.
Yeah.
So
it just amazes me all the time when I have clients and they tell me about some of the pills and medications that they're on, and it's like, why, seriously, why would you put that in your body? It's I had one woman telling me about a pill that if you take it for long enough actually makes you turn blue. I'm like, okay.
What?
Maybe not, but I understand that when you're in pain and you've been suffering for a while, you kind of, and especially when it's the medical world, it's the white coat syndrome. We tend to believe it. The doctors say that this is the answer. This is it. But I'm definitely with you on the part of education and spreading the message.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And we can't forget the medical world are there for a reason. We break us human beings, and they know how to fix us. And that's fantastic. It's the knowledge and understanding, I think, is dripping in. I know that the medical doctors are doing the mind-body doctors, so the medical world who get it, are doing their very best to educate. But it is like it's dripping in like a drop in the ocean. But it's happening bit by bit by bit. But the more we can share this knowledge and understanding, the more people are going to go, and then start to choose a different direction, which is success for them, really. Because the doctors will see you, they'll prescribe, and then off you go. We will see you, and we'll spend a long time with you on the journey, educating and supporting and being there and being your cheerleader. And when you start to get doubts and feel a bit, oh, I'm not sure, come on, and pick up and go again. And it's a much longer process for mind body therapists. There's a hell of a lot more education that goes on, and us human beings take time to learn. We need lots and lots of repetition. You have been conditioned the way you are for many years, and then all of a sudden we're going to start to reprogram and recondition. It's not necessarily the quickest journey out altogether, although sometimes it is. There's a guy over Christmas from Singapore who completely recovered from the medical diagnosis of cervical dystonia. Now, his head was turning over like this, and he had no control over it. You try and bring it back, and it would start turning over again like this. So he'd burnt out at the age of 23, and he couldn't afford to work with someone in the Western world. So I sent him a relaxation audio for nothing. I sent him 11 videos to watch, which included testimonials. And I did a bit of back and forth messaging just to give him an idea of what to work on, to take a step back and slow things down in life. And over Christmas, he sent me a video of him recovered, where he's moving his head completely normally. It's all gone. And it's just like, yes, just so good. And that's, that makes me jump up and down, because when someone gets it and they absolutely apply all of the changes are yours to have as a reward. So yeah, it's incredible. It's incredible work. But it does take a bit of time.
Yeah, thank you so much, Neil. That's been incredible. I'm going to switch off the recording and move over to the Q&A bit. So thank you so much.
That's okay.